All the way from Providence, Rhode Island, welcome to Rings of Power with Mary and Blake. It's a podcast dedicated to the show Rings of Power on Amazon Prime. So sit back and relax, and let's chat the glory of the Second Age. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. My name is Mary Larson.
My name is Blake, and today we are doing something just a tad different than we normally do when we're recording our podcasts. Mary, tell me, what is it that we're doing different?
I am currently podcasting from the driver's seat of my teal Mini Cooper as I am taking our daughter to an Irish step dancing competition that is far, far away. So, this is real life. We are parent podcasters, and I told Blake, I said, listen, I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the car. We may not be able to podcast in person, but if there's anyone on this planet who can figure out how to not only mobile podcast, but mobile podcast whilst in the car, I promise, guys, I'm safe. It's just like I'm chatting on the phone, but that's what I'm doing.
And if there's anyone that can figure it out, it's this nerd right here. It's this nerd.
It's you.
So if there is any difference in the audio quality that you're used to, I'm going to do the best that I can to make sure that it's okay. But if there's any difference, then that's the reason why, ladies and gents. Mary's in the car. I'm here in the studio.
If you hear my turn signal, yeah. And if you hear my turn signal, it's just because I'm a safe driver.
Right, exactly. All right, Marvin. So we are podcasting. You are doing remote. I'm here in studio. And I think the next episode will be the same, actually, because she's driving down to Connecticut. And then tomorrow she'll be driving back up to Rhode Island. So that's what we got. And hopefully this all turns out pretty well. In the meantime, though, I do have to say, Marvin, this episode, I'm not going to lie, pretty dang good.
It was so good. It was so good. It's funny because, of course, I'm a pretty high grader. And I just had to ask Blake because, once again, I'm driving. I had to ask him what my previous grade was because I need to know how much wiggle room I have because it was that good. Need to know.
Yep, exactly. So, all right. Well, just for the sake of argument now, I guess I will be the one that's running the show as Mary normally does. But you're stuck with me, I guess, because she's driving. She can't look at the document. I'm the one that has to do all this stuff. So I feel bad for you, listener, that I'm not the A host. I'm just.
Well, I'll tell you what you start off with, Blake. You start off with the mini plot recap.
Well, actually, no, we don't do that. Since I got the document right in front of me, I can do it from here. Just wanted to remind you all that if you're listening to this in live time, you can know that actually Outlander has already begun. Mary and I will be podcasting about that very soon. And if you want to check out Outlander Cast, just go to maryandblake.com or search for it in any of the podcatchers of your choice. Of course, there are all of our other podcasts that are there as well. They're also on YouTube, and you can receive links to all of them in the Mary and Blake Facebook group, or just check us out on Facebook, Instagram, X, we're everywhere. And obviously the most important one of all is jointhenerdclan.com. That's where all the magic happens, thanks to you, the listener. All right, Marvin, are you ready to get into the show?
I sure am.
Let's do it. All right, so this is the penultimate episode, Marvin. This is it. Episode 207, titled Doomed to Die. And what happens in this episode, if you don't really quite remember, is that it's essentially the Battle of Eregion. That's what it really is. And shows the final collapse of Eregion and also Celebrimbor, really. And the final 9 rings of men are created. And, whew, man, Sauron, Annatar, whatever you want to call him, Hot Sauron, he does some pretty evil stuff. I'm not going to lie, pretty evil stuff.
I do not call him Hot Sauron. I'm much more of a Halbrand kind of person, for anyone who wants to know.
So really, that's what this episode is. It's the Battle of Eregion between Adar and eventually the elves and the forces of Eregion, and how Sauron manipulates and eventually lets loose that he is Sauron, and how he manipulates Celebrimbor. That's that. All right, so the director was Charlotte Brändström, and that is a good Outlander reference, because she directed a couple of good episodes of season 3 of Outlander. You should know this name by now because she has essentially become the A-list director of Rings of Power. I will say that I've taken some umbrage with some of her directing. Some of it has not been great, but this episode, she was great. It was written by Justin Doble, and as well as the showrunners of Rings of Power, Patrick McKay and J.D. Payne. This appears to be, Marvin, the only episode that these two actually get credit for, like written by credits. And Justin Doble, obviously you should know that name because he has written many episodes of Rings of Power. He actually wrote the last episode and also the episode Udun, which is one of the other really great episodes of Rings of Power. All right, Marvin, here it is. Your rings rating. How many rings are you giving the penultimate episode of Rings of Power?
I give this episode a 4.95. Almost a 5. I'm just leaving a little breathing room for the finale. How about you?
Shockingly, Marvin, I'm giving this one a 4.99. I really enjoyed this episode. I found this episode fantastic for many reasons. But just the fact is really they focused on what makes this show great, and they stopped all of the nonsense, really, all the other dangling plot threads that seem to, I don't want to say take away, but they just make things stretched. And this is what we're here for, right? And that's what I really liked about it. You're GBG, though. You're good, you're bad, and you're great.
My good is that my boy Arondir is in the action. He's hanging out with his pal Galadriel. He's chilling out with Elrond. Like, all of my favorite elves are together, just making things happen. My bad is that I don't know if Arondir's alive. That was left to the air, and that is not okay with me. First off, a troll spits an arrow. Where did that arrow go? Who was he aiming at? Did he aim at Arondir? So that was like my actual bad, is I don't know where the spat out arrow went. But secondly, stop it, Rings of Power. Is Arondir alive? Adar just gave him the knife. Ew, oh my God, I'm so nervous. And then my great for this episode is the battle. It's the battle. I mean, I know that there's things that are still coming, but that was a Lord of the Rings battle if I've ever seen one.
Yep.
So I really enjoyed it. I especially loved the orcs because inside those orc costumes is some really happy person who gets to waddle around and growl and blah, 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 blah. You know, just like those orc extras were living their best lives, and the whole battle itself was awesome. There was a lot that happened in this episode, Blake, particularly with the dwarf drama. That's what I'm going to call it, the DD, the dwarven drama. But you're right. You think of this episode as the battle. This is huge. So I'm here for it. How about you? What's your GBG?
Yeah, they're taking a lot, it seems, from the Game of Thrones playbook, where it's like you have that big final battle or that big major thing happen in the penultimate episode. And I'm not going to call it derivative. What I'm going to say really is that it kind of makes sense. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, and
Well, House of the Dragon didn't do it this past season, so they didn't even follow their own playbook.
That's true. But regardless, Rings of Power is definitely doing it, and I don't find anything particularly wrong with that. I think it's totally okay. And ultimately, what it really comes down to for my GBG, my good is a guy by the name of Ashley Beck. I know you don't know that name. I know none of you nerds know that name. He's actually the fight coordinator for Rings of Power. He was actually a stunt performer for the likes of Michael Keaton in The Flash, the latest Flash movie. He was also one of the Knights of Ren in Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. He was also in Andor and Zack Snyder's Justice League, as well as Mary. I don't know how to say. I'm not sure if you're still a fan of this or not, but it is Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. You're a wizard, Harry. He was in that as well.
What was he in that?
He was just a stunt performer. But he is most recently the stunt coordinator on the smash hit Deadpool and Wolverine. So he is rising up the ranks, and he is the fight coordinator. What the fight coordinator does is that he coordinates the fights, what they look like, how they move, how the people move, the actions. I thought that the coordination of these fights was really stellar, especially with Elrond. I thought
yes.
Elrond really surprised me. The scene with all of the elven guards when Sauron takes control of them, fantastic. And there's also all these other little subtle things, like where with the archers or that lady getting the arrows stuck in her, like just really, really, really good stuff. And I have to give a call out to Ashley Beck because he did a really great job. My bad is the big troll. Like,
stop it, Damrod. I loved Damrod.
I don't mind the character Damrod, but he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. He just showed up.
He broke down the wall. He's like the main reason that the walls got weakened so they could get inside.
Yeah, but he didn't even break. Like, if he broke the wall down and died, okay, I get it. Like, that makes sense. But he didn't even break the wall down. He just cracked it. And yes, I know that was a stepping stone. I get it. But nobody of consequence died as a result of the goblin. Nobody.
I think someone would beg to differ.
Who died that is of consequence? Of consequence because of the goblin.
Are you Adar? Are you Adar? Because whatever Adar's like first lieutenant, you know, the daddy orc, the one who has a wife and a little baby, and he's like, "Father, please."
Yeah.
He would beg to differ. He thinks that a lot of important people died.
They're all a bunch of red shirts.
Orcs.
It's all a bunch of log carriers and red shirts. Yeah, but we're not him. We're the viewers.
Not him, and I think that's why it's important. Like, no, but as a viewer, I think we're supposed to see that he has emotions and that he cares. I'm still letting this be your bad because I appreciate it. But I'm just saying for the plot, yes, you see things that way. And Adar sees things that way. And the elves see it that way. Like, yay, we stopped the troll before he could really do anything. But I think this is, because after this, he doesn't charge with Adar. When Adar says, okay, everybody, let's go charge. He doesn't. Like, this is the straw that breaks his back. And so I think that's a really important part.
I don't know. I'm out on it. I'm out on him. I'm out on the
orcs as shields.
That was cool. Like, okay, that's fine. But it's all a bunch of log carriers. They're not real. They're just no real person involved. That's what it really is. And
completely beg to differ. But
okay.
But if you're seeing it from that guy's opinion, but I appreciate it's your bad. And I think that's what's important is that we're supposed to see it that way.
And then he spits out that arrow. It doesn't go anywhere or do anything. He dies laughing. Okay. Like, if he had spat the arrow and it hit Arondir and he died laughing, okay, I get it. And that makes That would make sense because it hit. Does Arondir have to die as a result? No. But he got hit. Like, it would make sense. But then nothing happened, and then Arondir was hit. He was stabbed eventually by Adar. And we're left hanging. And it just, that's what prevented it from being a 5, really, for me. Because...
Was the troll?
The troll. Like, that whole sequence didn't make sense. Then they leave you hanging, and we all know that Arondir's not dead. He didn't die. Like, there's no chance they're making him die that way.
Better not die.
And so I just didn't like the troll. I thought that it was just... They let you believe...
Cool music.
Yes, he did. But they let you believe that he was going to do something of real consequence. And they let you believe that spitting that arrow out did something. Like the way that it was edited. And nothing occurred as a result. Anyway, but my great is Charlotte Brändström. Despite what I just said, that's not necessarily her fault. That is the editing's fault. What she did in this episode, between the pacing of this episode, how it was shot, the all of it coming together to make it what it was, especially the scenes with Celebrimbor and Sauron. Oh my goodness gracious. Like, so great. So great. I thought Charlotte Brändström this is her best job so far in Rings of Power. So that's that.
Nice.
All right. What else stands out to you, Mary, about this episode? And what do you think works? What doesn't work? And I know we did our GBG, but like, what was your favorite part, really?
It was the battle.
Yeah.
And it was also Celebrimbor falling apart and seeing things for what they really were. Mm-hmm. You know, starting this episode with him having his little cup of tea, standing outside. He's on his little, like, vacation, you know. Everything's picturesque, and we as a viewer have already seen and we know what's actually happening. But for him in this episode to figure things out and see things unravel with this character who we've known, you know what I mean? We've known who Annatar is this entire time. And yet poor little Celebrimbor hasn't. And we've been able to see his humanity kind of be the weakness, or maybe it's his elvishness, that kind of pride, you know, that has been his weakness in all of this. So I really, really enjoyed that. Watching him figure it out, watching him see the mouse, watching him do the candle, trying to burn the rings. Like, in addition to the battle, that was my favorite part, was seeing him struggle as he realizes I made the biggest mistake ever.
Yeah, one of the things that you said, Mary, is that we already knew who Annatar was. Like, we knew it was Sauron. And a lot of people can say, and I think could make an argument that, okay, we're just waiting for the plot to kind of catch up to what we already know. But I don't think that's the case here. I don't think that's the case because what we're looking at is a failing of Sauron's. Like, it's not just, oh, we're waiting for Celebrimbor to figure it out. What we're watching for is the kinks in Sauron's armor. Yes. And how is that going to develop? How is that going to, how is that failing going to tip off Celebrimbor? And
Celebrimbor says that, right, when he gets free.
Right. And that's great. And that to me makes sense. And that's why I think this whole interaction between Annatar and Celebrimbor is not only great in this episode, I would also argue, and I'm not sure, Mary, if this is a hot take, but I would say that it's the best thing that Rings of Power has done. Do you think...
Is Celebrimbor's story?
Well, Celebrimbor and Annatar, how that came about, what happened, and how it fell apart. I think that's the best thing that they've done. Would you agree or disagree?
I disagree, but because I don't think I could have one favorite thing. I love all of it so much.
Well, we went we went into this season thinking that the best thing that Rings of Power has done is the friendship between Baby Durin and Elrond. And I'm still not opposed to saying that, by the way. I think that's entirely plausible, especially when they're reunited finally in this episode. It's like, oh, there it is. Like, that's the magic. But I really do think that the push and pull, the attack and defense that's employed between Annatar and Celebrimbor was the most captivating thing that the show has done. You know, and that's why, Mary, I'm really enjoying the season so far because of this relationship that is shared between the two of them. And one thing that I really noticed too, Mary, is, again, I think we touched on it last episode, that Sauron is getting more and more desperate. But I would say that probably my favorite part of the episode, aside from when the soldiers took their swords out and stabbed each other, was the scene when Sauron uses his magic to push Myrddania over the wall.
You're so dark.
And I loved it so much because it was unexpected, number one. And the way that it was shot and the way that it was edited was perfect. But also, it shows how cruel Sauron can be. It shows that, like, my sense is that we've kind of made Sauron relatable over the past few episodes, or just over the season in general, I think. And this is like, oh no, this is not. This is Sauron. This isn't funsies. I don't know what.
This isn't Hottie Halbrand, okay?
Yeah, right.
Hottie Halbrand is gone, and sneaky, slimy, selfish Sauron is here. Okay, no more Hottie Halbrand. Get that out of your mind, Galadriel.
What did you expect that whole thing with Myrddania?
I knew she wasn't long for this world. Yeah. Okay, I mean, here's the thing. If you don't have your own musical theme by McCreary,
you're out.
You're not that important.
You're just a log carrier. She was a log carrier with a name.
Yes. And that's why she had a name, so that we could care about her when she was killed.
Right.
Aside from that, I mean, we really didn't need to worry about her too awfully much.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're not someone who we know from the Lord of the Rings books, and you don't have your own musical theme. And that's one of the things I'm telling you. If you have a musical theme, you frequently are a big deal. Granted, Damrod the troll has his own musical theme, and he's not that long for this world, but that's a different case. So, no, I mean, I would not say that my favorite parts are when, Sauron has people murdered, but I don't know. I wasn't shocked by it. You were. You audibly went, whoa.
Yeah.
I wasn't shocked by it. But I think that's it. I think all the little looks that Sauron has just made me know what he's capable of. It blows my mind. I mean, this goes to show you the marksmanship of Celebrimbor, though. Because Sauron really does have this kind of power. He is almost godlike, where he can make the soldiers turn on each other, where he can make Celebrimbor's hand flinch and fling Myrddania. So it's not like he needed Celebrimbor's forge or his tools.
Mm-hmm.
He needed Celebrimbor himself.
Right.
Because he could have probably just disguised himself as Celebrimbor.
Right.
If he just needed his forge. If he just needed, the hammer of, Fëanor, if they just needed that stuff. So it really goes to show you how special Celebrimbor is, and how remarkable his whole city was, that this is something Sauron couldn't do without his tutelage.
Right. And
so in that sense of you're saying, that was one of your favorite parts so far, is their relationship. I think a lot of people put a positive spin on the word relationship, and this was a negative relationship, like completely like, you know, false and lies relationship. And, but it was an incredibly interesting portion of this season. I would agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the other thing too, Mary, is I'm not going to say that I'm going to take a victory lap here, but it's going to be kind of close because I called that the mithril that Sauron showed up with and gave to Celebrimbor was not mithril, and I was right. In fact, it was his blood, and it was just camouflaged as mithril. That was a cool thing too. I really liked that, and you also now get a chance to see why those rings, especially for men, really have a hold on them.
Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense. You think about it, and the power of the rings with the elves is pretty much non-existent because he didn't really have a hand in it per se. Whereas then we get to see him actually touch the mithril for the dwarves. So we know there's like a little bit of his presence in their rings. But here, you're right. The 9 men doomed to die. Well, yeah, it's because your ring is made out of Sauron.
Yeah, right.
It's as simple as that.
And you can see why they turn into ring wraiths. All right, Marvin, before we continue, let's take a moment to thank our partners who help make this podcast possible. And Mary, I would say too, another part of my favorite experience in this episode had nothing to do with the actual like production of the episode itself, but was your reaction to that incredible directing moment of the pan from Celebrimbor's face when he is handcuffed to the table all the way down to the cutter.
Oh my God.
And you were like, oh God, no. Like, it was like a, oh no.
Yeah, I did not have that on my bingo card of, you know, cutting off a thumb.
Yeah.
For this episode. Yep. Not what I thought was going to happen.
Yep, absolutely. And it was such a well constructed use of that cutter thing, right? Because they showed it in use earlier in the episode. And then also they showed you heard Sauron talk about this test of wills with Morgoth, and here's Celebrimbor referencing that and like cutting his own thumb off. Like, how cool.
Oh, so gross. I don't know if cool would be the word I would use, but yes. I mean, for other people who are squeamish with all things blood and, you know, instant surgeries, it's definitely a disgusting experience, but it goes to show you how convinced Celebrimbor was that he needed to do something about this and he needed to do it quickly and act fast. And also knowing that this was a major sacrifice of him. Like, he is someone who creates and works, and his life's passion, his life's purpose has been working with his hands. And now he has gotten rid of one of his opposable thumbs. And I don't know if elf magic can fix that.
I don't think elf magic's in the cards for him in that one. But you could see how desperate he was, right? Because all of his own townsfolk basically shut him out. And they were like, yeah, no, you're crazy. You could see why he did it. Because everyone had shut him out.
Yeah.
Including Mardania. And he, like, it was bad. It was really bad. He was desperate. And I love how they tied this all together. Again, aside from the Damrod thing, I thought it was a really well-constructed episode between the tension of the battle, pulling back and forth with Annatar and Sauron. I dare say even the stuff with the dwarves as well. the big rousing.
What do you mean you dare say? I loved it.
Yeah.
I love the dwarf stuff. I mean, we're now getting to a point where Daddy Durin has lost his mind,
Mm-hmm.
is his mind about mining, and Baby Durin is rallying his troops. He's going to go save Elrond, and now he has to go back on his word with Elrond to save his own people and to stop his dad.
Mm-hmm.
I love the dwarf drama.
Yeah.
Did you not like the dwarf drama?
I think it could have been handled better. My sense of it is that, like, the betrayal of it, right? Having like off screen, Daddy Durin like takes down all these guys, and they're gonna start like doing the digging again, and it doesn't feel earned. Whereas if Baby Durin got all these guys together and with the magic of the ring prevented Baby Durin from doing his thing, like, that would have been better to me. Like, if we had seen it.
Well, that also isn't fully done yet, right? Like, he hasn't faced off with his dad yet. He's kind of rallying his troops and saying, okay, instead we need to go after my dad. So we're not seeing him face off with his dad. I bet you that's, for next episode. He's instead saying, I have to change my mind. I have to change my course. But in the previous episode, we got to see how far his dad could push him.
Sure.
Because of the power of the ring. So I think that kind of laid the seeds of the anger issues that he probably has thanks to this ring, and also the strength that he has thanks to the ring.
Yeah.
So I think that was already laid down for us, that he has this strength. He also has this short patience and anger and short-sightedness. So I think the dwarf storyline was still had a lot of screen time in this episode, but obviously it's going to have a lot more next episode. We know that there's going to be his stuff is going to happen next episode. We know that the stranger and Nori who didn't show up at all in this episode, right?
Right.
Yeah. They're going to be coming, and they have to show up in the next episode, and maybe some Numenor.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Another great thing too, Mary, that I really like, and this is on a more of a macro scale, is that this episode mirrors Helm's Deep in so many ways, but the conclusion of the Battle of Eregion is so far different than Helm's Deep. When you have that moment, Elrond says, "Look to the north, there's the sun, they're coming." It's the same exact thing as Gandalf, and they don't come. They don't come to save the day. And it literally breaks Elrond. Like, he can't move and say anything beyond Durin's gonna come. Durin's coming. Like,
and he just is frozen.
Frozen
He
right
can't
there.
fathom. What I want to first say is, like, Elrond, not everyone can time their arrival on the dawns. I mean, even Durin, if he could have been coming, what if he was 10 minutes late? Give him a break. But we as the viewer know he isn't coming. And Elrond does learn that, of course, from his poor little messenger guy.
Right. And that shoves it home even further, right? This guy, this messenger who he's hoping is Durin, isn't. And not only is it somebody else, the guy is just riddled with arrows and dies right there saying, "Your boy's not coming." Oh, man. Oh.
These orcs, these Orcs, however you want to say it, they are strong, because we've seen these elves fight.
Mm-hmm.
We know how amazing they are. We know how strong Elrond is, and yet, like, his sharpshooter arrow lady, we see her get pummeled by lots of arrows. We see this guy. So I don't know if just this kind of like first version of orcs is supercharged, or if maybe some of these elves aren't as good as, I guess that's what it is. Like, some of these elves aren't as talented as Elrond and Galadriel and Arondir. We've just spent time with, like, the A-team people,
right?
That we get to see what some of the B-team people look like when they face up to the orcs.
Yep. And much of the battle, Mary, it really feels like it does belong in the Peter Jackson universe, like of Lord of the Rings. Like when you're seeing Elrond charge on the horses with the beautiful armor and everything, and even though it comes to a quick stop, probably quicker than what physics would allow, it feels like it belongs. And I think much of my issue with Rings of Power for much of the show's existence feels like it's its own separate thing, which of course it is, but it doesn't feel like a natural extension of that world. But this episode really, truly, at least visually, felt that way.
Agreed. And I think that that's the fine line that they have to walk, right? They can't make it carbon copy. They have to be very careful, and yet they are doing such a service, in my opinion, to fans like us who love the movies, who want to be able to watch it and believe that this is the same universe. Yes, it's different people, different time, but they are, especially, I agree with you, in this episode, you could believe that Peter Jackson had a role in it.
Yep, absolutely. And you can also believe too, Mary, that you can also believe the warm reception that Durin has for Elrond. And he's like, oh, it's going to be hard because this dwarf has been banned from, this elf has been banned from dwarven lands for eternity. And like that moment, like that warm and fuzzy, that as much as the battles and all the other things that are true to the Peter Jackson universe of Lord of the Rings, this interaction is also so true to that, because as much as the battles and everything are really important in Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, so is the fun and the levity and the warmth and the friendship, and seeing that was perfect too, right?
I need these two to get back together again, because the Durin Elrond bromance is not only one of my ultimate favorite things in this show, but also they are two people who I trust. I trust them. I trust their judgment. You know, Durin has been thinking that Annatar has been shady all this time. He's been very nervous and hesitant about the rings. And Elrond, same kind of thing. So we know Elrond lives, and we also know that elves well outlive dwarves. So of course, you know, Durin isn't in the Lord of the Rings verse, but like, I don't know Durin's fate. I don't know if he's going to make it all these seasons. And like I said, I trust him. So as Sauron leaves Eregion, and as he goes into the world, and as he eventually gets these 9 rings into the mortal man's hands, I want to know if Durin is going to be this beacon of like, don't trust the rings, or does he fall victim to them too?
Yeah. Part of me feels like he does. I don't know. I'm not saying that's a hot take. I'm not saying it's a hot take, but I think it would be interesting if he does, because it's just.
And if he doesn't, you know, are these 7 other dwarven lords? Do we get to know any of them, or is it just like mysterious? Like, yep, these are the other people.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because once again, like they are two people who, like, I have trust in them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep, absolutely. What
would Durin do? What would Elrond do? We need shirts like that, like WWJD, but WWDD.
Yeah. What would the High King do? I think that's a great question here too, because obviously, and we know this, that the High King also survives the Battle of Eregion. And by the way, going back to the fight coordinator, the High King can fight, dude. That guy's got no problems. He was whipping orcs around left and right. That was awesome. And another thing too is that vision that he had earlier in this season. All of it came true.
With the fish.
Well, with the fish, the smoke, the black smoke going across the white clouds, rocks and walls falling. Among the other things that happened too, like
so like rivers going dry and
Yeah, absolutely.
His visions, his dreams, Galadriel's dreams are much more like fun to watch, and
Mhm.
she could understand it a bit more. The way that we got to see his dreams were just these flashes. And you're right, Blake, they all came true. I remember saying, like, what do the fish have to do with it? That is the rivers going dry.
Correct.
That is the river to, the protection rivers. And so it was really cool. But I agree. He's just been this singing little guy worried about leaves who hasn't seemed that mighty. And now we get to see his strength in action here in this battle.
And even then, like when he says a king goes where he is in most need, and he just shows up just ready to deal, ready to deal and take out orcs left and right. So freaking cool. I was really...
Where's the rest of the elven army? Are they on boats? Remember when he met with Galadriel and she was having her little vision and he said, what should we do? And she said, I think you should send some of them out on boats. I'm hoping that's where they all are, because if this was all of the elven army, this was really small.
Yeah, then they are screwed. They are up the creek if that's the case. My sense is that some of them are coming, but the king got there first, That's my guess.
This was just the cavalry. They got there early on horses, maybe? I have no idea, but just the size of it was very underwhelming.
Yeah, I agree. All right, You want to talk about anything else in this episode, my love? Anything else that you think stands out to you, or?
We've got a massive kiss that, they're pretty shocking.
There's a good reaction to that too. Obviously it's nothing more, I think, than just sleight of hand, really, to get the key to. But do you think that there's anything else there for Elrond?
Okay, so this is where it gets a little complicated, because Elrond's related to Galadriel in the future.
Right.
Do you know this?
No.
Whatever. I'm putting it out there. Elrond marries her daughter.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
And then their child, is Liv Tyler. So there's that, but also elves live forever, and it's not forever, but they live for super duper long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess when I saw it, I saw him unclip his brooch right away. Like, I noticed that right away. Once again, they never, especially in this show, it's so brilliant and so meticulously made. They never film anything and show anything if there isn't a reason for it. So I knew something was happening. But then he goes in for the kiss. My favorite part of it was actually Galadriel's reaction with her furrowed eyebrows, like, holy smokes, what was that? And of course, before he kisses her, he, apologizes.
Yeah.
And it can be interpreted in so many different ways. It's like, it's an apology for, I can't save you right now. This is the best I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm sorry that this all happened. I'm sorry I'm about to kiss you. But this is what I got to do to kind of cover this up. Because let's be real, if he didn't do that, then, everyone's eyes were probably on their lips, not their hand.
Right.
If he didn't do this, he couldn't have gotten her the brooch in a different way. So I personally didn't take it as anything romantic. I took it as, this is the only way I'm going to get you this brooch so you can set yourself free.
Yep.
How did you take it?
Yeah, I took it the same way. I took it as a sleight of hand, and I took it as like him apologizing for doing what he's about to do. But also, yes, I think also apologizing for not living up to the promise that he made to Galadriel, which was putting everything having to do with Sauron and Adar above her. Because he didn't do it. As soon as he saw her in the position that she was in that cage, he stopped, where he should have kept going.
Well, on the flip side, their army was still kind of like outmatched. So I'm okay with them having a little bit of a break and having the chat. What saddens me, because at the end of all this, he's there, and you can also take it as, I'm sorry, I can't fully save you. Like, this is the one shot you've got. Like, you might not make it. I might not make it. The Sari can just take so many different forms. But of course, Adar knows that Elrond has the ring.
Mm-hmm.
He has Galadriel's ring. And he lies to him. Oh, yeah, well, I don't have it. Stupid Elrond. You probably should have put in a safety box or something. And at the end of the battle, Adar does get the ring. Elrond was, in fact, wearing it. I wonder if, like, just play volley with me for a second. What if Adar said to Elrond, we're here to defeat Sauron. You guys are here to defeat Sauron. You messed up by letting him in and make these rings. If we use the power of the ring now, we could defeat him. Like, why couldn't he just be honest and say, let's be teammates? We both want to kill Sauron.
That's a great question.
And would that have worked? You know, like, granted, Galadriel messed it up when Adar said, will you let my people go after all of this? And she pretty much left and said, you guys are ugly. Come home. But, like, I'm just trying to think, like, these people do have a common foe. And what if they could have just worked together?
Well, let's
why did they have to face off?
Let's take that for a ride here, okay? Let's just say that Adar did that, which would not be beyond reason, right? I think he's smart enough to do that. I don't think Elrond would ever go along with it. Because if he did, there's an opportunity for the ring to fall into Adar's hands. And I'm brought back to like episode 2 or 3 when Círdan says, listen, Elrond, I understand and I appreciate that you are cautious and weary of these rings. And if they were in the hands of somebody else, of your enemies, yeah, that's a problem. But they are in the hands of the people you trust most, your friends. And if you could just open your eyes and open up your idealism to not say that they're wrong, but to guide them, then we're going to be okay. And that's why I feel like even if Adar did say that, there's no chance Elrond lets that happen because he cannot let that fall into the hands of Adar. He can't do it.
So even if he didn't, you're saying that had Adar been just open and honest, saying, let's defeat Sauron together, not even saying, please give me the ring so I can do it. But maybe if he said, could you or Galadriel please put on the ring? And then we can go and fight. You're saying that Elrond probably would have still been nervous to even show the ring in front of Adar?
Yep. Like there's, because it could potentially fall into his hands. And I think it's, I think it's intentional of the showrunners, because in that conversation with Círdan, they even talked about how he's like, oh, Adar brings up, did you forget your Rúmeal? Don't make war in anger. And Círdan, in that scene in episode 2 or 3, they begin the conversation talking about Rúmeal. And like, oh, would you not believe Rúmeal just because he was a drunkard? Right? Like, would you tear down his writing just because of that? I think that's very intentional. Like these two being connected.
I agree. Just a thought. If people just wanted to communicate,
then half the television shows that we watch wouldn't exist, Mary.
This is why women need to inherit the earth.
Yes, I would fully agree with you. Because for all of you wondering, Mary is much smarter than me. Much, much, much smarter than me. And if she was able to just run the world, I'm sure it would be a better place.
No, I wouldn't want to run the world, but I'm just saying we need to give women a chance to like chat some things out. I love that phrase in Jurassic Park, you know?
Yep.
God makes dinosaurs. Men make dinosaurs. Dinosaurs eat man. Inherit the earth.
Oh, man. I'm trying to find my...
What's going to happen now that Adar has the ring, in your opinion?
To Jurassic Park. What's going to happen? That's interesting. I really don't know. I think that's one of the better things that's going to come out of this. And I think it's also problematic, Mary, that we're going to end up having to spend more time with Gandalf, Poppy, and Nori and everything. And my fear about it is that that stuff is going to take away from the stuff that actually matters. And that is what's going to happen with Sauron and Adar in this ring. Like, is this ring one of the factors that plays into Sauron's hands? Like, making the army of the orcs go over to his side.
And then don't forget, Galadriel now has the other 9 rings.
Right.
Do they trade?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And like, how do the
2-3 toss?
How do the 9 rings get to men? You know, like, there's those 9 rings are going to be tossed around, I think, a few times.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Does Galadriel has the rings? Yes, but she's going to have to end up going back to Eregion.
And she's going to have to get her ring back.
Right, exactly. Oh, and you know, another thing that I was thinking of too, Mary, is Celebrimbor made a really big deal about how light always holds back the darkness and, you know, so on. And I find that conversation, while he had like 3 or 4 different ways to say light holds back darkness, and it was a little dragged out, I find it interesting is that the power the thing that she gives to Frodo is the light that holds back dark.
That is pretty cool.
Pretty cool, huh? Interesting how that worked out. So there's these little things here and there that are awesome.
One musical thing that I noticed in the beginning when Celebrimbor is in his little dream stance, drinking his tea, having a grand old time, the theme, the Rings theme, which is the second track of the first album that Bear came out with, and you know, there's that kind of eerie voice about where they're singing out the lyrics of like, the 3 bells, da-da-da-da. That theme is being played in a major key.
Yep, awesome.
So it's not minor, it's major, and it's very dreamlike, and it's just changing just those couple of notes every once in a while so that it sounds very happy, lighthearted, as Celebrimbor's talking about how wonderful he feels creating these rings and how he's never felt better. So it's just a really neat musical thing that Bear did there to still stick true to the Rings theme and yet completely alter the key, the tonality of it to make us feel like, oh yeah, this is a good thing, cool. Celebrimbor.
So cool. And even the transition from that dreamlike world, Mary, to the real world, masterfully completed. Like, especially when he throws Fëanor's hammer, the thing that he like reveres the most, he just hucks it at Sauron, and that breaks the glass, allowing the sound to come through. And then that sweeping turn around Celebrimbor showing reality. Expertly crafted. Really good stuff.
I wonder if Sauron picks up the hammer and uses that to help construct his own ring.
Ooh, I would not be surprised. That's a great take too, Mary.
Now that it's outside, free for the taking.
Yeah. And it ends with Sauron in such a great way. It's like, you think you're the only one that was affected by my power, and his hand movement, like Charlie Vickers is just so good in this role. And then all those guys just stab at each other. It's kind of like a hopeless feeling that it leaves you with. And that he might.
And then, that last soldier, he tries to go for him, and you could tell in his eyes that he's not even really trying to do it. before.
And again, I go back to the fight coordinator. The way that Vickers just grabs it out of the guy's hand and just that one stroke and holds his hand out with the sword. So cool. Like that feels like something Sauron would do. That feels right.
Agreed.
It feels right.
Agreed. And yet he can't find the rings.
I know. It's cool. All right. Anything else you want to talk about, my love?
No, I'm just really excited for the finale.
Me too. All right. Well, as is tradition here, Mary, in these kind of episodes and in the penultimate episode of any show, we play a specific song. Yes, that's right, ladies and gents. We have Europe, the final countdown. It is the final countdown for Rings of Power Season 2. And the question I always ask, Mary, is, does this provide enough momentum going into the finale? I've asked that for every episode or every show that we've done. I'm going to ask you again for this season, do we have enough momentum?
I believe so. I am here for it. The momentum has picked up. This battle was the perfect way to lead us into the finale. We've got the what do we do now conundrums all over the place, whether we're in a mountain, looking for a Gans, you're figuring out where some rings are. What's Sauron going to do next? What's going to happen to Celebrimbor? All of it.
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
100% yes.
Very cool. Yeah. I also say this does not end well for Celebrimbor. I think he's dead by season's end. Hold on.
It's the final countdown.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, Galadriel had a dream. Remember where he was killed?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So, I agree with you. I think that is what's going to happen for sweet little Celebrimbor.
All right, my love, I think that's it. Of course, everybody go to maryandblake.com for all of the great podcasts that we have there. And thank you to everyone at jointhenerdclan.com who make this show possible. And also, a big round of applause to Mary for podcasting in the car on the way down to Connecticut, the worst state in the Union. And
Stop it. I love this state. It's very pretty.
it's the worst state. We're by far the worst state in the Union.
Connecticut people, we love it.
Mary loves you. So yeah, just thank you for everyone at jointhenerdclan.com, and of course thank you to Mary for podcasting on the way down to Connecticut. She will be podcasting tomorrow again on the way up from Connecticut, and then that will complete Rings of Power as we move on to Outlander Cast. And make sure that if you love Bear McCreary's music, you're gonna love Outlander, because there's Bear McCreary's music all over that bad boy, and it is so good.
All right, our friends. Thank you so much for tuning on in. My name is Mary.
My name is Blake.
Namarie.